Do you believe that you can heal yourself? Too often we give our power away to something outside of ourselves, and rarely, if ever, trust and tap into our innate healing power and intuition. Everyone has this capability to heal in ways we never thought possible. It's your sovereign right to claim and have true health and lasting wellness. Now, here is the host of the Dr. Dolores Show, Dr. Dolores Fazzino, nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and energy whisperer.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in our wonderful world. And yes, I am back in my office. I am not on the road this week. So, welcome to another episode of the Dr. Dolores Show. And I'm Dr. Dolores Fazzino, nurse practitioner, medical intuitive, and energy whisperer. And we've been having, what can I say? We've been having a self-discovery series, and this is the fifth episode and the final episode of the Becoming Your Own Best Friend self-discovery series. So today we're going to be talking about thriving in self-love. And for many of us, self-love is it's a real complicated thing. And we've been taught for so long that loving yourself is considered selfish, and how dare you to even think that you could do that. But you know what? It's a necessity, and it's a very important foundational piece of learning how to become your own best friend. Because remember, everything starts with us first. It's an inward job. It's self-love, self-respect, self-acceptance. It all starts here. It doesn't start outside of ourselves. It starts within ourselves. So, what is self-love? And I've just took some notes here. Self-love is the practice of caring for, valuing, and respecting oneself. It involves accepting oneself as worthy of love and kindness, regardless of the perceived flaws or shortcomings that we label ourselves as having. Self love entails nurturing one's physical, emotional, mental well being, setting healthy boundaries, and prioritizing one's needs, one's own needs, and happiness. It's about recognizing and appreciating one's strengths and uniqueness, while also acknowledging areas for growth and improvement. Ultimately, self love is a foundational aspect of overall well being and is essential for leading a fulfilling and satisfying life. So that's what self love is. And I don't feel that any part of that description is being selfish. In fact, when we don't take the time to do that for ourselves and just really love the love ourselves, all the deliciousness that comes with that, we really take away from what we could potentially be giving to others. Because remember, everything starts with us first, and who we are ripples out into the universe. So if we are the essence of love and we are loving ourselves, guess what happens? Remember, we talk about dropping a little pebble in a pond of water? When we do that, that's like radiating from us. We're that little pebble that we drop into the water. And as it hits the water, it ripples out and it affects everything in that body of water. So you can look at it from this aspect too. That little pebble is you making an impact on collective consciousness. So isn't that just a wonderful thing to be doing? It's just there's really no effort. What you are radiates out. It's all energy. So we talked about what self-love is. Let's briefly talk about what self-love is not. Okay. When you don't practice self-love, a lot of negative behaviors and attitudes towards oneself can materialize. And here's some example. We get to be more self-critical. We criticize ourselves more. And, maybe you're the type of person maybe that beats yourself up. And we've talked a lot about that on the Dr. Dolores Show and past episodes, where our self-talk is not very positive, or we are beating ourselves up. And sometimes we treat a stranger on the street a lot better than we even treat ourselves. That's got to stop. Self neglect is another thing that is not self love. Ignoring one's physical, emotional, and mental needs, or putting others' needs before our own to the detriment of our own well-being. And so sometimes this comes hand in hand with people who are codependent, meaning that they put everybody else's needs before their own. Or if they are on their list of to-do things, they're on either the last thing on their to-do list, taking care of themselves, or they don't even make the list. Okay. That's self-neglect, and that's got to stop as well. Another thing that is not self-love is self-sabotage, such as engaging in behaviors that harm yourself, such as unhealthy habits or relationships, procrastination, or avoiding responsibilities. So, if you have a tendency to be a saboteur, you may want to look at, where you are harming yourself, either by who you hang out with, or maybe what you are doing, or how you are doing things, procrastinating or avoiding things. It's something to look at. Another thing that is not self love is perfectionism. And we've talked about that before on the Dr. Dolores Show. We've had a couple of episodes about being perfect and recovering perfectionist here. And, in the future show, we're going to be having another episode on perfectionism as well. But perfectionism is setting unrealistic standards for yourself, and feeling inadequate or unworthy or unable to meet them when you're unable to meet them. So that's like it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy, but it also is constantly going around in the motions of things. And it's really not a good thing. Okay. So we talked about self-criticism, self-neglect, self-sabotage, perfectionism. Another thing that is not self-love is comparison. How many times in life are we always comparing ourselves with other people? Okay. Continuously measuring one's worth against others leads to feelings of inferiority or envy. Everybody's on their own path and on their own journey. And just because somebody's doing something doesn't mean, and you're not living up to that expectation, it doesn't mean that you're a bad person or whatever. You're on a different pathway, you're on a different trajectory. So you do yourself a huge disservice when you're comparing yourself to other people, and measuring up and how you measure up. That's an external validation instead of learning how to come internally and being okay with who you are and where you're at, no matter what is going on. Another thing that is not self love is self denial, suppressing one's authentic thoughts, feelings, and desires to conform to societal expectation or please others. When we deny ourselves our truth and our wisdom that is ours, it's like there's a disconnect from ourselves and being connected to our higher selves, our intuition, our inner wisdom. When we deny ourselves that and give that power away to something outside of ourselves, like looking for approval for somebody else, or trying to fit in, so you dampen your light. We are, a lot of us who are here right now carry a lot of light energy. That's our essence. That's our beingness of who we are, and it's a light, and some of us shine our lights more than others. A lot of us dampen it down so that we fit in, or we don't draw attention to ourselves. I invite you to show up in all your glory and all your light, because when you deny that, you really are hurting yourself and maybe hurting others as well, because you're not showing up in your true potential, and maybe other people need to hear what your true potential is. Did you ever think of it from that perspective? Another thing of what is not self love is lack of boundaries. And we've talked a lot about boundaries on the Dr. Dolores Show, because it's really all about setting boundaries and honoring them, feeling you are worth it enough to be treated and respected and valued and appreciated. When we lack boundaries, we allow others to mistreat or take advantage of ourselves due to an inability to set and reinforce healthy boundaries. And we recently talked about that on five one of the 5 episodes of the Becoming Your Own Best Friend series that were in our last episode of today. And lastly, another thing that is not self love is seeking